From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, July 29th, 2024. As we talk about the next 10 days, we've seen some relief from the fire weather conditions that were in that red shading there, extreme across northern British Columbia, northern Alberta, portions of northern and central Saskatchewan. So some good rains there over the last 7 days, really kind of squashing the higher end risk up there, at least temporarily. Though we're still quite dry across portions of southern Alberta into southern Saskatchewan. Now, not going to see a lot of relief there over the next week. It's going to be a mostly dry week. Some pockets of isolated, scattered shower and thunderstorm activity possible. More on the way probably as we get toward the weekend into early next week. And those temperatures this week, they're on the warm side, but not scorching like we've seen over the last week or two. Now, as we look at the last 7 days of precipitation, again, a lot of it here across portions of northern British Columbia into northern Alberta. This was really good news. Been very dry, very hot across this region, so really nice to see several inches of precipitation there. Of course, it was dry along and south of Highway 16, except for a couple of very widely scattered, isolated shower and thunderstorm complexes. Now, as we look at the next 7 days, we'll start off first looking at the satellite picture here, kind of setting the table for us. And we're kind of just not right in the right spot for, heavier precipitation across the prairie. And that's going to happen at times, especially this time of year as we go through the summer months. Right now, the pattern kind of featuring a jet stream that runs right like this. We're kind of south of the storm track that's running right through the Midwest of the U.S. I've got a cluster of thunderstorms that's moving overhead right now. We may get interrupted by some thunder here as I record this video, but a stormy pattern in the Midwest U.S. We're just kind of, in between areas across the prairie. We can see that here on the radar. Here is the thunderstorm complex, bottom right, that is pushing into my backyard. We've got some showers here from Grand Prairie over toward Prince George up to Fort John. Some of this shower activity will certainly continue over the next 24 to 48 hours across this region, and then the remnants kind of right off across northern portions of the provinces, leaving us dry along and to the south, again, except for very isolated showers or storms. Temperatures as we get the week started, not too bad in the middle teens generally here on Monday morning. Some cooler spots, Calgary, kind of in that 9 to 14 degree range here early Monday morning. And as we look at the next 7 days of precipitation, here's the pattern. Again, very stormy across this corridor, the Great Lakes into the Midwest, where I'm recording this video right now, kind of right about there. Just not the best pattern for us across the prairie. There is certainly going to be some opportunities, especially as we get toward the weekend into early next week, but the next 5 days or so going to be pretty sparse as far as organized precipitation goes across the prairie. Now, as I add in the next 7 days after this, so this is all the way through August 12th now, again, we start to see some of the heavier precip returning to portions of western and southern Alberta into southern portions of Saskatchewan. It kind of looks like we may end up in a pattern that could send several shower and storm complexes kind of right through this corridor here over the weekend into early next week. Now look at the difference. Fire weather conditions a week ago today, fire weather conditions today on the right. This is what I'm talking about. Really kind of ate into the fire weather risk across this region where we'd had a lot of ongoing fires, setting a lot of smoke across the prairie into portions of the central U.S. even. We're seeing some of that smoke making its way down here over the last week or so. A lot of heavy rain, really kind of reducing the risk up there. Of course, we don't turn off the fire weather season until we get all the way into winter, and it's certainly possible we could see things kind of start cooking across this region as well. But, we kind of speculated coming into the summer that things may not be quite so bad this year with the ridge setting up a little bit further south, keeping the jet stream in the area. And I got to say, anecdotally, that is what we're seeing. We saw the very stormy start to the growing season, kind of depositing a lot of moisture that we could tap into through the year. And then while we've seen some of that heat over the last week or two, those high temperatures getting into the mid to, at times upper 30s across portions of the prairie, pushing 40 degrees Celsius, we brought it to an end after about a week to 10 days. And now we're starting to see those temperatures. Again, we're back in the mid to upper 20s for your high temperatures here. And again, the chance for some precipitation off and on. We just brought a lot of heavy rain into this region over the last 7 to 10 days. So that's kind of the theme of this summer is we're going to feel some heat. We're going to deal with the fire weather season at times, but we should get doses of moisture to mitigate things. And we also should be protected from prolonged excessive rounds of heat. That's exactly what we're seeing this summer. So that's good news, and as we look at the next 7 days, we see a lot of the same. We're seeing several little troughs sweep in over the next 5 to 7 days that are going to keep us, not too hot. They're not going to bring a lot in the way of precipitation as they kind of dive off to the south into the east, and then we see some ridging try to build back in over the weekend. Let's kind of step through time with this one. Here is kind of getting the week started Monday, Tuesday. Looking at the flow, kind of doing something like this, riding through the northern northwest U.S. and then kind of diving in. We've got that northwest flow pattern here across the Great Lakes and the Midwest U.S. and we're just kind of caught between here across the prairie. You know, we're seeing some general upper level troughing and upper level low pressure, but not right to kind of bring us any sort of organized precipitation. We'll run this out a little bit further. This takes us into Wednesday, now getting into Thursday. Into Friday, we start to see some of that ridging build back in. That's going to allow those temperatures to warm up just a bit, but this is not, you know, a big ridge doing something like this. This is kind of higher heights, but still some pretty fast jet stream flow and a rather flat ridge across the region. So it won't let us get too hot, and we'll keep that fast jet stream flow across the region such that by the time we get into early next week, probably see more in the way of thunderstorm clusters across the region with that faster jet stream flow in place. This gets us back into a more classic northwest flow pattern across this region. It's still not perfect, but it is one that will probably bring us more in the way of precipitation as we get into kind of August 3rd through 6th approximately. We can see that here with the precipitation forecast. As we start off here Monday, again, the prairie kind of right up here. I've got this on the U.S. focus. I'm still having issues rendering these precipitation animations on the preferred model site that I use. So we'll use my backup here, and this will tell the story for us. And the story is pretty clear over the first 5 days of the forecast period here. As we go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're seeing some very isolated showers and storms pop up, but nothing in the way of really organized precipitation. All the thunderstorm clusters are kind of riding right through this corridor. It's going to be a stormy week where I live. I'm kind of getting buckled up for that, maybe dealing with some flooding in the basement, maybe some more power outages. Hopefully nothing too bad, but it is going to be a stormy week in the Midwest. It's going to be a pretty quiet week across the Canadian Prairie. Things start to change as we get into the weekend. This is now getting into Saturday and Sunday. You're starting to see some of the first little hints of some shower and thunderstorm activity right through this corridor. You'll see a little bit more of it as we get into this is Saturday, August 3rd, Sunday, August 4th, now getting into Monday, August 5th. Not a pattern that, you know, is going to feature a slow-moving storm system that's bringing a big area of slow-moving heavy rain, but it is going to get us back into a pattern that will bring showers and storms back into the forecast early next week. So the forecast all the way through Monday, August 5th, pretty dry until you get up toward portions of northern and central Alberta where we could see anywhere from 10 to 20 millimeters of precipitation. A lot of that here over the next 2 to 3 days. Pretty dry across much of the prairie proper except for some widely scattered shower and thunderstorm activity. Same stories. We look at the European ensemble. Very subtle area here of 10 to 15, 10 to 20 millimeters of precipitation, kind of between Calgary and Edmonton, drier as you make your way through the rest of the prairie. But as we add in the week that follows there, this takes us through August 13th. We open it back up to a pattern that should favor much more in the way of those shower and thunderstorm clusters making their way across the region. We'll talk about that more in detail, of course, a week from today. Your probability of picking up 1 inch or more of total rainfall between now and Monday, August 5th, not all that likely across this region. You've got some speckled blue shading there, anywhere from a 10 to 30% chance of getting that 1 inch mark. Of course, the heavier precipitation, as I've been mentioning, focused across the Great Lakes, the Midwest U.S. We're just kind of not in that pattern, kind of caught right in between here across the Canadian Prairie. As I add in the next week, this is your whole 2 weeks, the probability of picking up 1 inch or more of precipitation. Get into that, 50 to 70% range here as we get into portions of western, central Alberta. This, of course, all really coming between August 5th and the 12th as we maybe get into another pattern that could feature those northwest flow shower and thunderstorm clusters across the region. Temperatures, as I mentioned here, warm but not scorching. That's really going to be the theme over the next 5 to 7 days. We'll see some variety here at times, maybe some cooler air try to work its way in as we get into later into the first week of August, but by and large, probably looking at those temperatures right around 5 degrees, warmer than average at most. So Calgary, over the next 5 to 7 days, high temperatures between 25 to 29 degrees, overnight lows in the middle teens. Very similar here in Edmonton, kind of hovering right around 25 to 26 for your afternoon highs. Saskatoon right around 30 for the next couple of days, maybe a little cooler on Tuesday, a high of 26, but generally mid to upper 20s here in Regina as well, a little closer to the 30-degree mark. Again, a little bit warmer across southern portions of the prairie, but still not scorching like we were a week ago. Winnipeg, very similar, highs right around 30, give or take a couple degrees through Friday, cooling off a bit as we head into what could be a little bit of a cooler, stormier week 2.